Hey, Nikki Brown here, no matter where you are and what part of the world you're in. I hope that you're having a good day. So, I had a topic I wanted to discuss. I was on the phone with one of my friends that I've known for a really long time. And she said, you should really have your own podcast. And I've heard that more than once. And this is like a podcast. Of course, it's not, but it's podcast like, right? So basically, she and I were talking, and we started talking about polygamous relationships, right? And she said at one point she thought about being in one, and at one point I thought about it too. So, there are different videos or books, and you could do research, um, and you hear different perspectives. I remember once I watched a video, and it was an African woman, and she was crying. And she was crying because her husband was with other women and she was tired of it. I know a guy who he was raised in a polygamous household, but he disagrees with it as an adult who's married and in a monogamous relationship because he saw how much his mom cried and he saw how much it hurt her, and he doesn't want to do that to another woman. A lot of people who call themselves wanting to be in a polygamous relationship, they don't really understand polygamy. First of all, polygamy was created by women, and it was during times of war when there was a low birth rate, and there were not enough marriage-aged men for the available women, young women. And so, or if a sister, say for example, if a wife lost, if a wife's sister lost her husband during war, she would tell her husband, "You have to marry my sister," because women are supposed to have a covering, and women are supposed to be protected, and that covering is considered a man, because of course there are exceptions, and I'm strictly talking about monogamous relationships, and I'm strictly talking about men and women together, right? So, in general, women are not as strong as men. Yes, there are exceptions, but I'm not talking about those exceptions right now, right? For the most part, men have the strength, and women are typically smarter at, especially when it comes to running a household, maintaining bills. Again, of course, there are exceptions. This is not all women, but in general, women are more, women are better, again, not all. Women are better at managing the household, and men are better at things that, like household chores, like fixing a doorknob or putting up sheetrock, or things that are considered manly, right? Because there was a point in time where we went through a rites of passage ceremony, right? So women learned how to do certain things. Now, there are matriarchal societies where women did a lot of things that were considered manly, right? But anyway, there are a lot of monogamous power couples who make millions of dollars, right? Because her argument was that she always wanted to be in a polygamous relationship so she would have someone else's income and someone else to have sex with her man, you know, when she didn't feel like it. So if she could share that responsibility, why not? And it has its advantages and disadvantages, because in a lot of those relationships there's jealousy, right? I talked to a guy and he thought it was the funniest thing, and he got a kick out of the fact that the two women would argue about who was going to cook and the spices in the kitchen. And I'm like, as he's telling the story, I'm just thinking to myself, how is that cute or how is that funny? I don't think that it's funny to have jealousy, right, within a marriage. I just don't think so. But to each his or her own. So again, you don't need a third income to be wealthy. You can have a monogamous relationship and y'all can be a power couple. And you can still have a multitude of income. You can still enjoy each other, take vacations. And if you're focused on the work and you're having sex maybe 2 to 3 times a week or a few times a month, for some men, that is satisfactory, right? And for some women, because some women have a high sex drive too. Right? It's not just men. It's not always just the man who wants sex all the time. There are couples who get it in all the time, right? This is what they do. This is what they're into. This is one of the reasons they're together. And they still make everything else work as well. So it's really up to the individual what type of relationship you want. I just think you should choose someone who wants that same type of relationship you want, and not try to force someone to deal with your cheating and infidelity if that's not something that they want to do. And if they decide to separate from that situation, that should be okay too, especially if you did not ask their permission or did not tell them that this is what the type of lifestyle that you want, right? Be fair, because no one has to deal with whatever you're forcing them to deal with unwillingly, right? Every relationship should have conditions, right? It's called boundaries, right? And there are such things as healthy boundaries. And if something is going to hurt another person, why would you intentionally do something? Although people call it a mistake, but I don't think there's a such thing as having a mistake and putting your penis or your vagina on someone. I just don't think so. I just disagree with that statement that it's an accident or it was a mistake. No, you cannot pull your pants down, take several pumps until you bust, and then call it an accident or a mistake. No, I'm sorry. I'm not buying it. You did it because you wanted to do it. And that's just the bottom line. So be man enough or woman enough to admit it, right? And deal with the consequences, because there may or may not be consequences. And this story came about is because someone that I know said that they presented themselves as wanting a polygamous relationship. Well, their partner said that they agreed, but they had rules. But on the side, they were having sex with someone else. So I feel like that person invited that type of energy into their life. If it's okay for you to do it, it's okay for you to receive it. And that's just how I see it. But I know that other people see it differently. And people will say, oh, well, a woman is inserted and she shouldn't want all of those, this, that, and the other inside of her, whatever. If we're all going to have the freedom to do as we please, then we should all have the freedom to do what we please, especially if we're not following the traditional rules of polygamy as they were intended. Right? Look up Juju Mama, right? Juju Mama and her husband, it works well for them. There are couples out there doing it. There's another couple who talks about how she has a husband and a boyfriend. And her boyfriend and her husband have their own separate relationship. And it works for them. And guess what? They're a power couple. They're making money. Right? Juju Mama and her husband, they have multiple businesses. They're making money. But they're a polyamorous couple. Right? But then you have other power couples where they're just monogamous and they're still making money. So it all depends on the individual and what each person wants to do. But again, if you invite that type of energy and say, I want to have a polygamous relationship, you cannot be mad at your partner if they want to do the same thing. Now, that partner should discuss it with you and not do it behind your back, because this was a woman who did it behind the guy's back, right? I think it should still be discussed. But then later on, she was like, oh, well, we can all share. You share his wife and I'll share you. So she wanted them to swap, like a swingers type of relationship. But he didn't want that. And he has the right to. But again, he can't expect someone to be loyal and faithful to him if he's not willing to do the same. Because this is 2023. Polygamy or no polygamy, honey. If you open up that door, in my mind, the relationship or the marriage is now open. It's now an open relationship. And she may say that she's not doing anything, but she may be doing something on the side. Most people cheat at work. You never know, she could have something on the side at work. She may not. Or he may not, but he or she may. And so that should be expected. So if you can dish it out, you should be able to take it. So if you want an open relationship, if you want to cheat, 9 times out of 10, your spouse is probably doing the same thing in a lot of cases. And you can't be mad at that. So if you think it's okay for you to step out, then you should think it's okay for your partner to step out too. And that's just the way that I see it. But choose wisely, everybody, because I was watching Sistas, Tyler Perry's Sistas, right? And the older woman who was talking to Andy and Fatima said, basically, don't waste your time. But she admitted that she was dating a married man and he divorced his wife and then married her. And then he cheated on her. So you reap what you sow. Usually, how you get them is how you lose them, male or female. So, those are my thoughts. Love y'all as always.